For me, it's important that you start to connect yourself with your surroundings, because that's what we do. It's about connectivity. The Experience Academy was for me a total different setting than I had ever seen before and I had ever experienced before. And for me, it meant that I looked at in a total different way at nature and landscape and the business that I do. Because in our country, you know, people that are involved in conserving the natural environment, they usually tend to look at it as something that's problematic. When you want to conserve nature, you are against things, you're against buildings, you're against something happening, you're against recreation. And I started to look at nature conservation as an experience, something meaningful for people. And we started developing new products because of the course. And this has something to do with sensibility, with connections, with experience. So for me it was a totally different way of looking at things. I started a new company, and that has also something to do with the course, because I just didn't want to think things out, but I also wanted to put them into practice. And that's what I've been doing with Triple E. We invented a landscape auction, and of course after a while we also started putting it into practice. And that's what we did. And the landscape auction, I've got here the catalog. So we started selling experiences. We started selling hedgerows, meadows, forests, everything that people wanted to own and make themselves make themselves connected with their natural environment. And that's what we did. And we learned that at the course, try to make connections with people and seek for added value and seek for an experience into the landscape. And as far as I'm concerned, nature is the ultimate experience. The landscape auction works as follows. A farmer has hedgerows on his land and he has a solitary tree on his land, and it costs a lot of money to conserve that. So what we do, we have an enormous auction in the meadows, and what people do, they adopt landscape elements and they become yours, so to speak. Of course they're still on the land and the farmer manages them, but it's your product. What you actually buy is the certainty that the landscape stays as it is, as you want it to be. That's what you buy, and you make the difference. For example, I might adopt this beautiful tree over here, and the owner of this beautiful garden here says, I can't take the burden of the financing of this by myself. So I said, okay, what does it cost to manage this for about 10 or 20 years? And he says, well, 50 euros a year. And that's what I give him, and it's a gift, and then I am sure that this tree will be here for about 20, 30, 40 years. And that's what I want. I want to keep it here. I want to conserve the landscape. What you do, you make it possible that it stays this way. You give money for the management, for the conservation of the landscape element, which means that of course you are connected with your own surrounding, with the natural area where you live. It becomes more or less yours, and that's the core of the landscape auction, and that's also the experience element that we are strengthening in nature conservation. It's a good feeling to know that with the landscape auction we do make the difference as Triple E. It's very much about connectivity. We feel very connected, and its success is not only about the money, but the idea that we're making the difference here in saving the natural surroundings in the Netherlands in a sensible way, with a lot of added value to the product of nature conservation. So that the course has meant to me, and it has given me a lot of pleasure, of course, but it's given me also a lot of knowledge and a lot of insight in how to create added value.